Hi there. This is gonna be a bit of a different video. I should probably clarify a few things before I really get into the topic. So this will be mainly just an unscripted video on, well, literally what the title says: my thoughts on Halo. Well, or rather, all the games in the Halo MCC, and this does only just it's only the games in MCC. So Reach, CE, 2, 3, ODST, and 4. I haven't played Halo Wars 1 or 2, and I've neither played one of them, any of them rather. There's also been, I think, Spartan Assault, smaller, like I think twin stick shooter kind of game. I haven't played that either. So this is like the mainline games. Oh, Halo 5. I haven't played that one neither. And I've got no plans to play that. From what I've seen from that game, it seems miserable. It seems like a miserable time to play. So this will be basically just my unscripted thoughts on Halo. Since, well, the Halo Master Chief Collection on PC recently finished, got all of the games onto the platform, and I streamed all of them from Reach up to Halo 4. I've live streamed all of them, my little journey through the MCC, and I thought it was appropriate to just record something. I don't know. I've been thinking about doing these kinds of videos because what I generally I'd say that scripting this kind of stuff is probably for the better because you can make sure you're more concise. You can make sure you don't repeat yourself because I can already see it happening. I'm probably gonna repeat one or 2 points just because I don't know, I'm rambling on. Um. So yeah, usually doing this scripted is kind of the smarter idea, but the first problem is that I don't really want to write a script, especially not for something that could possibly be this long. And there's also the issue that I, I don't know. I feel like it would probably be a bit too dry. Sorry about that. A bit too dry in a script. Um, each time I would think about writing a script, I think back to that composition video, which was fairly well made, fairly educational, I think at least, but it didn't really bring out. I don't know. I guess my personality. Now, it's not to say you can't bring out personality in scripting. Obviously, you fucking can. It's just, I don't know. I think it's easier for me to kind of be myself when I just, when I just free flow it, when I just say, talk about what I think. So yeah, in that sense, this is completely unscripted. So excuse me if I if I mess up. Obviously, if I get something wrong, that can probably happen if I don't know, complain about something that's not actually there. That could very well happen. Or, like I said, if I repeat myself on something. And aside from that, there's something else I want to clarify, and that is that I guess you could call my perspective on Halo sort of an outsider's perspective. My first game was Halo Reach on the Xbox 360. It was some years ago when I actually got a 360. It was like the 360s had been out for quite a while, so I got it at like, or rather, my parents. I didn't have any money back then, so my parents got it at a fairly low price, and Reach just came with it. So Reach was my first Halo game, which also is why I openly admit that I probably have a bias for Reach. That is also something I want to clarify before I get too much into this. I definitely have a bias for Reach because from what I've seen, a lot of Halo veterans aren't big fans of Reach just because of the changes it made, the different way it told the story, the new characters and all that. So in that sense, because it was my first Halo game, because I guess it appealed to me, the slightly somber story with the fall of Reach. Being able to customize your own Spartan in story mode is something I absolutely think is fantastic up to this day. I wish more Halo games would do that. I mean, obviously you can't do it with the Master Chief. The Chief's a chief. That much is obvious. But I would love for, I guess at this point, 343 because Bungie's out. But I would love for 343 to make more games where you can like have your own Spartan, and your not just your own Spartan, but he also shows up in cutscenes and shit, or he or she, them basically. Uh, but yeah, I think the reason why Reach appealed to me was just the somber tone of its story, this kind of doom and gloom feel of, hey, Reach is going to fall, and we're just probably trying to prevent the inevitable, or prolong the inevitable, rather. So yeah, just to clarify that. And the other thing is, I wasn't a big fan of Halo before it came out on PC. Um, Reason being, I don't really enjoy first-person combat with controllers. For me, it feels sluggish. It feels kind of awkward. Like whenever I play. Oh, by the way, the other Halo games that I played before MCC came to console, aside from Reach, were the CE Anniversary Edition and Halo 4. Those were the only ones. I never played Halo 2 on any console. Neither did I play Halo 3 on any console. Neither Halo 3 or DST. None of them. Um, so just to clarify that. Anyway, I wasn't really a big fan of Halo because, like I said, I don't like first-person combat with a controller. Like I said, it feels slow to me. It feels sluggish. I can't. It always feels like, what's the saying? I guess for me, it feels like I'm trying to steer a car, with my elbows. You know, it doesn't feel right to me. Which again has to do with my background. I grew up playing FPS games on PC, so I'm most used to mouse and keyboard. Not to say that nobody else is allowed to enjoy FPS games. I mean, obviously, considering how successful Halo was, obviously people enjoyed it without a doubt. You know, it's like that. It was well in people's capabilities to play the game and enjoy the game with a controller instead of keyboard and mouse. So that's like it's just for me personally, rather. I just wanted to clarify that. So, yeah, kind of an outsider's perspective. That's why I think that perhaps some of the things I'll say in this video might be sort of heretical to some Halo veterans. I can certainly imagine that because uh, I'm sure I've got some opinions that people wouldn't really be much fans of. Um, I don't know what to say. I mean, some of the stuff will obviously be subjective. Some of the stuff I would argue is rather objective. You know, when it comes to like rather glaring. I wouldn't say glaring issues. That's a bit too extreme, but rather just general issues in gameplay. I think it would be fair to say that those can be objective, but yeah, a lot of them will probably be subjective. So if you disagree with me, then that's fine. You know, we're made to disagree, I guess. So yeah, that's that. Uh, so I guess I might as well start in order of. Should I do it like in order in which they appeared in the MCC or chronologically? I guess it would be fair to make it chronologically. Which obviously would start off with Halo CE. Now, funnily enough, Halo CE, back when I only had Halo on the 360, Halo CE was actually my favorite one because Halo CE didn't include so much precision shooting. Being that now that I actually got to play Halo 2, I noticed that Bungie put a larger focus on precision weapons than it did in Halo CE. Like, think back to CE. The precision weapons that you have, the only precision weapons rather that you have in that game are the pistol, the Magnum pistol, the sniper rifle. I think that's it. Like, you didn't have a Covenant carbine yet. You didn't have a beam rifle. Yeah, no. So it's only the pistol and the sniper rifle, both of which are very powerful weapons. And the others, they're not based around precision. The assault rifle is it would supposed to be mid range, but it's more close range. Same with a shotgun. Needler has homing attacks. The plasma rifle and plasma pistol are both in that mid range kind of field. So Halo CE revolves a lot around rather close range fighting. I mean, just look at the assault rifle itself, right? 60 rounds in the magazine and spread like crazy. Like, you can rip apart Covenant. It's like they're nothing with that weapon at close range. It's just go further than that range and it becomes practically useless. So, sorry about that. Just had something there. So in that sense, CE was actually my favorite Halo on the consoles because I didn't have to worry that much about aiming. Because in Halo 2, of course, they introduced the battle rifle, they introduced the beam rifle, the carbine, the sniper rifles, of course, still around. You had all of these multiple options for precision weapons, and it was obvious that there was a bit more of a focus on landing headshots. I mean, most cannon fodder enemies, grunts, jackals, and all that, you can just bam dispatch with one good, well-placed shot in the head. Which is funny on the grunts because with their silhouette, the heads aren't even that well visible, but considering how weak they are, I'd say that's excusable. It's much more important on the elites, and with their silhouette, their heads are usually much better visible. So I'd say that's a given, or rather, that's excusable. So in that sense, and I mean, CE, I'm okay with that game. Honestly, it's CE. I mean, obviously CE has its problems, without a goddamn doubt. Like the strongest part of CE for me is its first half. Up until up. Wait, what comes after Assault in the Control Room? After Assault in the Control Room comes No. It's first Silent Cartographer, then Assault on the Control Room. Then I think it's was it 343 Guilty Spark, the level where they introduced the flood. Then it's the library. Then you get back to the same map as in Assault in the Control Room, but this time you start from the other end. Then in Keys, you're back on the ship from Truth and Reconciliation, and then in the Maw, you're back on the USNC Forward. No, Forward Dawn. Jesus Christ, Pillar of Autumn. That's the issue. After, I hope I got the names right. Basically, the winter map, right? After the winter map or winter level, it's kind of done with original levels. Well, okay. To be fair, the swamp. All right, so rather after the swamp, after I think that level is called 343 Guilty Spark. Basically, after the flood introduction level, it's kind of done with original content. I mean, okay, fair enough. The library is technically something new, but in all honesty, I mean, it's more Forerunner structures, and anybody at this point knows the issue with the library. Just endless rooms upon rooms filled with flood, which just drags on. And each goddamn time I play the library again, I am shocked by how long that level takes. And I'm playing it on normal, Like, I mean, it's understandable if a level takes long if you're playing it on legendary, because you have to actually, take things slow. You have to... Each encounter can be very quickly can be your death. But even if you're playing on normal, in which... Sorry about that. Usually you can, just breeze through levels. The library just... It just drags on and on and on. It's horrible. So yeah, as far as I can see, Halo CE's biggest issue would be that it quickly drops off after its first half. I mean, the library is just a library, right? It's its own class of awfulness. Funnily enough, the Flood as an enemy are fairly well made, which each time I think about it, it's kind of surprising to me, because introducing an enemy like the Flood, that kind of shakes up the entire way and then the entire way you fight them and counter them, it's something you usually just see in sequels. Like with Halo CE, I would have fully expected them to just have the Covenant as your enemies, and that's it for the entire game. Because to be fair, the Covenant were well realized, and they did the job right. But Bungie actually went the extra mile of introducing the Flood as this entirely new enemy that you meet in the second half of the game. That I have to give them kudos for that. And the Flood are, like I said, fairly well made and realized in CE. Obviously, that would be improved upon, especially in Halo 3. But I'll get to that later. So, in a sense, I do enjoy CE. It's just the repetition that gets to me, Like, take the second level on Halo at this point, which is obviously legendary. So many Halo fans obviously quote that level as that, and the one on the island. I think that's the Silent Cartographer. So yeah, second level where you actually land on Halo, the island level, like those are fantastic. Like you can see why Bungie got launched into like this. Why Halo CE basically became the franchise starter that it was, because Bungie showed off they can do some amazing things. It's just you'll hear me say this about a lot of Halo games. It always feels like Bungie were reaching farther than what it was realistic for them to accomplish. Like you can obviously see that in CE they had to. I don't have like any hard evidence for this, obviously. One of the cases where it's known is Halo 2's development, where they definitely had to cut down on things they planned. Though I suspect some cut downs also had to happen in CE just because of the repetition you see towards the end. Like, you have all this this these vast, fantastic levels, all of these handcrafted encounters, and then towards the latter half, it's just, hey, here's this level again, here's this level again, and again and again and again. Broken up a bit by the fact that you often also fight Flood, not just a Covenant, but still, you know. But all in all, I'd say CE is probably one of the better Halo games. In my personal list, it's fairly high up because it's just enjoyable to play. You know, like this, there was definite consideration for its balancing and just its design. And I'd say it's understandable why, why it got Bungie into the position that it did, and why it became kind of like the Xbox's big system seller and flagship title. Because Halo C, obviously there are other things that can be said about CE, just the kind of differences introduced into the market, into video games as a medium. Obviously, a lot of people are blaming it for the 2-weapon limit, which I'd say is a bit unfair because the 2-weapon limit makes sense in Halo, because obviously the whole game's balance is like structured around the fact that the chief can only carry 2 weapons. Now, realistically speaking, for this big hulking space marine soldier kind of type, you'd expect him to be easily able to carry 3 or 4 firearms at once. Just be strapped down with guns all over the place. Like he doesn't care for the weight. He's got fucking Mjolnir armor. He's basically a walking tank. But it was much more directed towards the balancing of Halo, and how they could actually structure encounters around the fact that you only had 2 weapons, and you often only had the weapons that were available to you that had been placed by the level designers. So in that sense, I'd personally congratulate CE on having that 2-weapon limit, because it allowed them to, actually handcraft the way you interacted with the sandbox, handcraft the way you interacted with the encounters. Like they always knew, okay, at the beginning of this mission, the player's got the pistol and the assault rifle. Around here, he should probably be somewhat low on ammo for his assault rifle, so we can drop this. It's, just level design. So in that sense, I wouldn't fault CE for introducing the 2-weapon limit. It's more on other games for just following that convention, perhaps without much understanding what made it fit in Halo. What made it good in Halo. Other than that, I'd say CE is honestly a fantastic package. Like, it's one of my favorite games in the MCC. Like I said, it drags on. I rarely find myself playing through the whole campaign. Usually what I do is just play through the first half, because, like I said, it's a fantastic first half. Up to probably either up to the level where you get introduced to the Flood, or the library. That's usually the point where I quit and move on to something else. But in that sense, oh, you know what? I guess I can get this out of the way now, in terms of what my favorite games in the MCC are, and perhaps my least favorite ones. And I'm gonna get this out immediately. This is probably the heresy that I was talking about earlier. My least favorite Halo game in the entire Master Chief Collection is 3. It's Halo 3. Which, again, from what I've heard from other people, what I've seen from other people, Halo 3 is very, very fondly remembered. Like, for many people, it was apparently not only their introduction to Halo, but it was like the biggest title for them in Halo. And again, it might have to do with the fact that I started out with later titles. It might be the fact that I don't have much nostalgia for that game, but it's just, for me, it's the weakest one. Yes, that means for me it's even below Halo 4, which, again, I could understand why people would say that's bullshit. A lot of people have very fond memories of that game, and I can see why. And it's not a bad game, far from it. It's like the least good from this overall pretty fantastic bundle. Again, I'm not out to say that Halo 3 is bad, far from it. It's just, in terms of comparing it to the other games in the collection, I'd say it's the weakest one. One of my biggest complaints, which is especially visible in my streams, is the whole Cortana and Gravemind just babbling on in your head, and especially slowing you. Basically, for me, it goes against. For me, it basically commits one of the cardinal sins in gaming, and that is hindering the player at actually playing the goddamn game. Like, obviously, I'm not one of those types who says fuck story, it's all just gameplay, or fuck gameplay, it's all just story. It's usually the best thing you can do is a mix of both. But at the end of the day, games are games. Obviously, they have to play well, and the fact that Halo 3 regularly just takes control away from you, makes you slow walk just so you can listen to Cortana say some edgy shit, or the Gravemind just yell at you. God, the downgrade on the Gravemind in terms of his dialogue and his voice actor in 3 was weird. It was really weird. But yeah. But I'll get into Halo 3 a bit more later. The other thing is, it would actually be difficult to determine which game in the MCC is actually my straight up favorite one. That's hard. Honestly, that's hard. Because, like, a lot of different games have different, strong points to them. Whew. I guess, in a sense, with my bias towards Reach, you'd expect that to be my favorite one. And I guess I'd have to concede that, yeah, it would probably be Reach. I don't know. It's like I said, the atmosphere and feeling of the story just appeals to me. The fact that I can customize Noble 6 is also fantastic to me. The gameplay is probably not the strongest one. It's oh god damn it! That's a whole other tangent on its own, eh? Quick thing to the gameplay in Reach. Generally, I like it. It's also, as many other people have said in the past, it feels fantastic that the Covenant are like so dangerous. That they're really out to murder you. They're really out to be a legit threat and to do their best and to try their best to annihilate you. Sometimes in fair means, sometimes in rather bullshit means. See the concussion cannon. God, that gun is such bullshit. It's just, the funny thing is, I'd have to admit, on PC, Reach is probably one of the contender for best gameplay. It's just, when I think back to that this game was originally released on console, I'm a bit conflicted because, like, Bungie heavily leaned on the whole precision factor in Reach. Just consider the fact that in many levels, 6 starts out with the DMR instead of the assault rifle. And, just considering how powerful of a weapon the DMR is. And how often you have to use precision weapons to just even survive encounters, because otherwise you'll just get overwhelmed, Getting into close combat with Covenant troops, especially elites, is usually deadly because their melee is just so turned up that they can usually just wipe you out. So, thankfully your melee isn't as weak as it is in Halo 2. So, like I said, on PC that's not an issue, because on PC, hey, you've got your mouse, you can aim and click at their heads as much as you want. It's just on console. That's why I wasn't really able to enjoy Reach to its fullest on the 360 when I played it there, because when I played Halo on console, I never felt like a Spartan. I never felt like this super soldier in Mjolnir armor, just wrecking shit, just shooting down Covenant one after another. I didn't feel like a badass. You get what I mean. On PC now, of course, I've said multiple times in my streams, on PC it almost feels like you could probably classify normal as almost easy. Aside from a few encounters, like, don't get me wrong, normal can still wreck your shit if you're not careful, but it's much, much more manageable because, like I said, you have the precision, you have that maneuverability, you have to just, it's kind of like Yahtzee said, and what was, I think it was in his Doom 2016 review, it's just for this kind of, for staying that mobile, for aiming at that many enemies, and for doing all this multitasking of, maneuvering, shooting, aiming, etc., etc., it's better to have a mouse and keyboard because I don't know. It just I think it just makes it that much easier. So, in that sense, I guess it would be fair to just say to just classify gameplay in terms of only on the MCC where you have mouse and keyboard. Because while, like I said, I really don't agree with some of the decisions Bungie made for Halo Reach, considering it was first only on console, and on console it didn't really feel that good to play to me. Um, but I guess it would be fair to say we'll just look at it in the sense that it's now on PC. So yeah, okay. I think I'll stick to that. Halo Reach is my favorite one in the MCC, just because I enjoy the story, I enjoy the soundtrack, I enjoy the visuals. Oh, especially the design changes they made to the Spartan armor, some of the UNSC stuff, their weapons, the additions they made to the UNSC's armory too. So yeah, I I think my personal favorite in the MCC would probably be Reach. So yeah, we got that out of the way, eh? God damn it. I guess I'd give second place to Halo 2, just because I think Halo 2 is fantastic. Now I have to admit, I don't usually play its campaign fully. I have to, again, this might be correlated to my bias towards Reach and perhaps rather, humans, yay, UNSC weapons, yay. Like, usually when I play Halo 2, what I do is just I load up the playlist for Master Chief's side of the story. Like, don't get me wrong, Arbiter's levels are okay on their own. It's just, first is the issue that I really have problems empathizing with the Arbiter. More on that later. That's right, I'm starting to sound like a Lindy Beige. Jesus. Yeah, today's sponsor is Audible, eh? I fucking wish. No, it's just usually when I play Halo 2, it's just the Master Chief side of the story, which in my opinion is absolutely fantastic. Like, the different levels, the encounters. Okay, to be fair, this is the anniversary edition of Halo 2, and I don't know if they made any significant changes to gameplay, so I guess I should clarify, yes, this is, of course, anniversary Halo 2. Funnily enough, I usually also just played in the anniversary graphics. Again, I don't have that much nostalgia for the original Halo 2. Obviously, I enjoy the fact that you can switch between old and new graphics, just compare how the game used to look. And, I can appreciate what Bungie did back in the day with the hardware that they had. But if I just played on my own, usually I just played in the new graphics because, well, they're nice to look at. I don't know. And Halo 2, I guess I can get more into Halo 2 in general now that we're done with CE. Halo 2, as a general package, also just seems better to me. I mean, the story and voice acting in it are superb. I am shocked at how much they downgraded, for example, Truth's lines and voice acting in Halo 3 from Halo 2. Like in Halo 2, he was this smooth-talking, charismatic leader. You could believe that he had gotten into the position that he had, What was the line? The great journey waits for no one, not even you, brother. Just the way he smoothly said that. And I checked. That voice acting was also there in Halo 2. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I looked at like a compilation of all classic Halo 2 cutscenes, and the voice acting there was just as fantastic. I'm pretty sure it was the same voice acting. Like, he was, in my eyes, a much more complex character. He wasn't just this Saturday morning cartoon villain. Har 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 har! I am the big evil leader of the Covenant. Oh god, what was his line in Halo 3? I am the voice of the Covenant, or some shit. Like, he was so cheesy in Halo 3. I don't get it. Like in Halo 2, he actually seemed interesting. Same with the Gravemind, Like, the way the Gravemind spoke, sometimes in rhymes, sometimes in riddles, and how it played both sides, how it knew that it had to work together with the Chief and Arbiter to ensure its own existence. And some of the lines, it said, this is not your grave, but you're free to what was it? You're free to share it, or to share in it, something along those lines. Those lines were utterly fantastic. I don't know if, again, I have no clue about Halo 3's development, so maybe there was a change in writing staff or something. I have no clue. But all I can say is the Truce and Gravemind's performance in Halo 2 is absolutely fantastic, and I every time enjoy listening to it. um, like, okay, we've established that Chief's side of the story is cool. I like his missions, Cairo Station, then the streets of, what was that called? Streets of Mombasa? Basically, the two levels that happen down on Earth in Mombasa. The one where you're fighting through the alleyways, then later, the one with the tank on the bridge, and eventually you're fighting against the Scarab. Later, then his levels on Delta Halo, my mind also absolutely fantastic. Just the fact that you fight your way over to Regret. You fight all your way over there through countless Covenant. You just wreck so much of their shit, and then you take him out yourself. And obviously then, as a send off for Chief, you have also Gravemind, and goddamn it, what was the other one called after that? Gravemind, of course, is your assault on High Charity, and the one after that is when the Flood breaks out in High Charity. I do not know what that level was called anymore, but both of those are also, like I said, I really enjoy Chief's side of the Halo 2 story. The weakest part for me in Halo 2 is, funnily enough, the Arbiter, and again, perhaps some veterans will call me out for that, for, hey, how can you not like the Arbiter? He's such an iconic character. Well, the problem is that, as far as I can see, the Arbiter's he's a bit of an asshole, considering the shit he did against humanity. I mean, what was his name again before he became the Arbiter? Tail Vademy or some shit like that? Like, the dude he's basically a war criminal. He's killed millions, if not billions of people. He glassed multiple planets. He glassed Reach. He indirectly killed my homeboy, Noble 6. So I have a hard time kind of empathizing with this character who, up to this point, had been a warmonger. I mean, yeah, sure, you can say, okay, it was the prophets who had tricked him into starting this war against humanity. But okay, perhaps some people will call me out for this real life reference, but I'm pretty sure we also tried a lot of people at Nuremberg that weren't Hitler. A lot of his generals and shit, who had gotten orders from him, yes, but who had then carried them out, and resulted in the death of a lot of soldiers and people and whatnot. So I cannot agree on the fact that he's just let go like that, considering just everything he did to humanity, considering the billions of people he murdered, the billions of people he genocided. I mean, consider how many fathers did he kill? How many mothers, sons, brothers, sisters, daughters? How many families have been either totally exterminated by him or ripped apart in two by him? How many people had to flee their home because of him? How many people lost everything and maybe even starved to death because the planets they fled to couldn't provide for them? That's why I'm saying that the Arbiter is kind of an asshole in my eyes, because he's a war criminal. Straight up. He attacked civilian targets, he glassed planets, he just... I don't know, in my sense, he's a horrible person. Now, yeah, fair enough, he fought alongside the Chief in Halo 2 and Halo 3 and whatnot, and he went against the prophets and he killed Truth and yada yada yada, but I'm sorry, but in my eyes, that doesn't exempt him from what he did. So you can see why I have issues empathizing and kind of putting myself in the shoes of the Arbiter. Now, funnily enough, okay, I can't slam him completely. If you leave out the whole war criminal part of him, if you left all of that out, he's actually a pretty good character. Like, he's actually fairly likable, It's just, I guess the whole background knowledge I have of him, of him, of him genociding so many people, that makes it kind of difficult for me to really just I enjoy him as a character, because it's always there in the back of my mind, like, yeah, but how many people did he kill, How many people on Reach alone died because of him, Aside from now just Noble Team. Again, it might be part of my bias with Reach. It might be kind of interlinked with all of that. I do not like the Arbiter. Yeah, that's that. But I'd say Halo 2 definitely it deserves that second place because even though I don't like the Arbiter side of the campaign, the Chiefs side of it is just so goddamn good that I think it makes up for it. Um, third place, honestly, I'd probably place Halo 4. Funnily enough, main reason for it being that Halo 4 obviously doesn't have the best. Okay, let me kind of clarify this. I'd say Halo 4 has the best and most polished, I guess you could say, moment to moment gameplay of the series, which makes sense. You know, it was the latest title. Obviously, 343 had been able to learn a lot from Bungie's previous games. They had been able to optimize to clean up the gameplay and to just make it as good as they could. So that's a no brainer. But what I mean by it has the best moment to moment gameplay is that it doesn't have the best campaign gameplay. Far from it. You can often in that game you can really tell that they needed to flesh out the Prometheans further because it starts out with just you and the Covenant, and those parts of Halo 4 are surprisingly the strongest, or rather unsurprisingly, because obviously you have this history of Halo combat, so they were able to polish that. You have the history of the Covenant. These enemies have been established for that. I mean, by the time that Halo 4 came, when did that game come out? 2012, 2013. You had at least over a decade of like time and development on this core gameplay, on these core enemies to make them the best they could be. It's just that when the campaign switches over its focus to Promethean enemies, which understandably 343 Halo 4 marks a lot of signs that 343 wanted to establish themselves as their own thing. They wanted to show the world, hey, we can do Halo now. We might not be we might not be Bungie, but we're our own thing. We can do our own deal. So in that sense, it makes sense why they wanted to introduce the Prometheans. They wanted them to be their own flood, this new enemy alongside the Covenant that can shake up the foundations of gameplay a bit, which is an admirable goal. It's just that the Prometheans, they didn't get the kind of polish and development that they needed. I mean, with the Prometheans, you have 3 core enemies, and that's it. You have the Knight, you have the Watcher, and you have the Crawler. That's it. I mean, to be fair, yes. Both Knights and Crawlers, and perhaps even Watchers, have different variations. They have like higher classes similar to the elites with the Miners, Zealots, Majors, etc., etc. But that's it. You have these 3 enemies, and the problem is the Watchers. I'd put them on a similar level to the buggers or the drones or however you want to call them, in that they're okay from time to time, but usually they're just annoying. They're these flying pests that just veer around all over the place, attack you from up above. They can even intercept your grenades and heal or protect it. They're kind of interesting in the idea of the support enemy. Like if you chuck a grenade at a Knight who's got a Watcher as his partner, the Watcher grabs the grenade and chucks it back at you, or chucks it somewhere else where it can't endanger any other Prometheans. They can also like give shields to the guys they're supporting. They can also repair them, like bring them back to life if there's like this weird little spark remaining. So in that idea, of them being this like support character for the enemy, it's interesting. Like the idea behind it is interesting. It's just the execution. Usually they're just annoying, Like most people will tell you, yeah, these small little flying around enemies are usually the most annoying ones in games, which makes sense. The flying around, the buzzing around, you can't really get a good hit on them. It doesn't feel satisfying to fight them, and the problem lies in there that the Watchers are one of the core enemies, one of the only enemies the Prometheans have. So you'll encounter them a lot of times, which is a shame when they're pretty annoying. So that kind of manifests itself as a problem for the Prometheans. The Crawlers are okay. I just noticed in my time playing Halo 4, I even mentioned it in the streams. I don't feel like they actually make use of the verticality like they should. I remember this one jungle level in Halo 4, might be, I don't know, the third or fourth one, somewhere around there. Before you get into the no, not fourth one. What am I saying? The Infinity. Before you reach Infinity, before you meet Lasky, you're in this big jungle, with all of these pathways. Oh, basically, a whole lot of verticality. You have all of these areas above you. You have all of these areas where enemies could go up on, and the crawlers don't use that. For some reason, the crawlers there just refuse to use that. Now, it might have been just a quirk of my campaign. They might have been programmed to do it, and maybe in that section they didn't. But the fact that they did not, and the fact that I didn't really see them use a lot of verticality and interesting movement throughout the campaign, kind of that makes me think that they haven't really been, made to make use of that, which, is a shame because they're fast, they're mobile, they're kind of supposed to be this enemy that can flank you, that can surround you, that can you know what? I think it might be the reason. I think it might be because Halo 4 came out on the 360. Because if I remember correctly, a lot of people said that Halo 4 had to turn back a lot of stuff in terms of AI for it to be able to bring the graphical performance that it had on the 360. Yeah, true that. That's a point. That's an important point about Halo 4. It originally came out on the 360, and I really feel like you can often tell that it was held back by that. Which it is weird to me that 343 didn't decide to wait until the new generation of consoles came out. That they didn't wait for the Xbox One, which probably wasn't even called Xbox One at that point, but they didn't wait for the next Xbox title to, put Halo 4 on to make the most use they could out of the new hardware, to push the boundaries as far as like I said, I don't know the development history. It might be that Microsoft pushed them to bring out a Halo game on the 360. They said, hey, we need another Halo. You guys need to establish yourselves. You've got the funds. You've got the time. Do it. Which, to a degree, is understandable. But on the other side, you can really tell that Halo 4 was held back by the hardware it had been made on. So, yeah, I think that might be one of the reasons why I'm kind of underwhelmed by the crawlers, because perhaps 343 wasn't able to kind of make their AI as advanced as it would have needed to be. The Knights, I mean, they're kind of the core enemy of the Prometheans, and the Knights are, in a sense, okay. I'm not a big fan of the design of this, they have, I don't even know how I would describe it. Now, of course, the art direction of Halo 4 is its own separate issue, which I'll get into in a bit. But the Prometheans, they have this very bulky design with this big, I'd almost a bit like a turtle shell on their back, and then fairly long, they're very top heavy, which fair enough, makes the silhouette at least, it makes the silhouette quickly understandable, I guess. It's just, I mean, the Knights sort of fill out the same role as the Elites do, or perhaps the Brutes do, for the Covenant, that is core enemy that is usually the most dangerous one to you, They've got shields, they usually got the stronger weapons, they usually got better maneuverability, usually have somewhat stronger AI. They usually can use the weapons better. Just compare how a Grunt uses a Needler to how an Elite uses a Needler. Usually the Elites are deadlier, just because they actually fire that thing fairly quickly. So in that sense, the Knights are kind of supposed to fill out the same role, but they don't feel as satisfying to fight. Partly, I think, because of their design, and because of with an Elite, I said earlier, they have a silhouette where the head is very quickly recognizable, especially with some of the other designs, especially in something like Halo Reach, where the Ultras and all of these other higher classes have very, very distinctive helmets and hats on them that makes them very quickly recognizable. So in that sense, dispatching an Elite, breaking his shield and then pop one in the head is very satisfying. You have this dangerous enemy who could fuck you up, but you blast his shields down, then bang, one shot to the head, he's gone. It popping them like that feels very satisfying. And I think the knights kind of lack that, specifically because of how they're designed and how the weak points aren't really that recognizable, and they're also pretty busy to look at. But again, that's the Halo 4 art style in general. So, this started out with me saying like which Halo is my most favorite and least favorite one. But again, I kind of have to go off on tangents like these, because when I say I'll look at it later, I'll most likely just forget about the point that I wanted to make. So in a sense, I kind of want to have to go on these tangents before I like forget the point I wanted. Probably should have made myself some notes, eh? Oh god. Yeah, right. That's whatever. But yeah. So okay. The Prometheans. Basically, the Prometheans are lacking. That's the main point I want to make. And that's why Halo 4's campaign gameplay is also fairly lacking. Like, it's moment-to-moment gameplay. Like, if you just looked at its gameplay in a bubble, you just put Chief in a room with some Covenant, and boom. And it's probably the strongest in the MCC, for, like I said, obvious reasons. But if you look at its gameplay throughout its campaign, it suffers, again, because of the Prometheans. And I guess I might as well get into the big one while I'm on Halo 4. Its art design, or its art direction, or I guess rather its changes in art direction. A lot of people bemoaned Halo 4 for the changes it made to a lot of things. Chief's armor, a lot of the UNSC weaponry and vehicles and equipment. The UNSC Marines, of course. That redesign is... I'm really not a big fan of that. Obviously, also the elites, many of the Covenant, like the Grunts look completely different. The elites look fairly different. The Jackals look completely different. So, yeah. Again, I can kind of understand why 343 wanted to make these changes, because, again, they probably wanted to give Halo, their version of Halo, its own identity, They wanted to say, okay, this is different from Bungie, this is our thing now, this is... Bungie had their own thing, it's its own separate entity that we respect, that is still around, but we're going to do our own thing now. Which, again, is respectable. It's just that... This kind of issue is something that I find hard to describe, because usually a lot of things, stuff like Halo, you could also say stuff like Star Wars, Star Trek, etc. Often, especially sci-fi stuff, often has like its own kind of distinct visual style. Like, I guess we might as well get to the classic example of Star Wars. A lot of people back then praised Star Wars for, not being just this clean, rounded off sci-fi. It was very gritty. Its environments felt lived in. They felt real. They actually felt like something tangible. They actually felt like something that's that people actually moved around in. Which is something a lot of people criticized the prequels for, that its environments were way too clean and way too artificial looking, partly also because of the CGI. So, you've got this visual sense of something like Star Wars or something like Halo, and redesigning stuff is all fair and good, but it has to still fit into this visual, I guess, sense of it. It still has to feel like it's part of this universe. It still has to feel like it's part of Halo, for example, now with Halo 4, which a lot of these design changes don't. I mean, the most famous one is the changes they made to Spartan armor, which now look more like something you'd see from Gundam than than from Halo. Like the Spartan Force are probably the worst contenders in that, because that doesn't... I mean, you can say whatever you want about, the classic Halo Spartan armor. My favorite iteration of that design is still the one we see in Reach. Again, partly because of the bias, partly also because Bungie just went into a more militaristic look with the Spartan armors in Reach, and the UNSC in general, which I personally very much like, because I think it just makes sense. They are a military, so it makes sense for them to look militaristic. But again, Chief's armor in 3, 2, 1, they're all fine, it looks. You could imagine a super soldier of the future wielding that. It doesn't look like out there. It looks fairly pragmatic, fairly simplistic. It looks tangible. But of course, in Halo 4 and also Halo 5, I guess, um, they look like Gundams. They look like something out of my Japanese animes. uh, which it doesn't, like I said, it doesn't feel like something that's from Halo. It feels like something else, that's just pretending to be Halo, which is an issue. So, yeah, I love the art style in Halo 4. I'm also not a big fan of. It's 3 probably should have I don't know. It's hard to just answer it with one question, like what would have been the one thing they needed to do. Hard to say, honestly. It's probably go with a different art direction, honestly. But yeah, in general, like I say, Halo 4 is an enjoyable package, and again, the fact that I put it above Halo 3 is probably off-putting to a lot of people. Oh, god damn it. Okay, now to quickly get this over with. After that, you have ODST and Halo 3, so that's the list done. Jesus Christ. Oh god, this video is just all over the place. But I did say I would just ramble on a lot, so this is just me, unscripted, just what I think, just what goes through my head. So obviously, if this was scripted, I would have made different sections. Probably start off with the disclaimers of, hey, I'm kind of an outsider, yada yada yada. Then probably my listing of which one's my favorite, least favorite, etc. And then probably gotten into all of the games specifically. This right now is just me going on tangent after tangent. But like I said, this video is kind of a bit more experimental. I kind of just want to see if people would enjoy something like this. And the main reason why I want to give this a try is because I remember that rambling about composition video that I made way back in the day, when I was still openly affiliated with Source. Yeah, how embarrassing, eh? And I thought to myself, there might be people out there that could enjoy something like that. I mean, obviously there are people out there that much more enjoy scripted stuff, which is understandable. It's probably more concise than anything what I'm doing right now. But perhaps it's more like long form, just off the top of my head kind of stuff. Probably has its own audience, so I thought I might as well give it a try. See if it kind of latches on to people. If people think this is cool, So I guess I said what I had to say about Halo 2. Halo 3, okay, Halo 3 isn't all bad, obviously. I think it's, like I said, I think its biggest downsides are, on one part, its story, on the other, the whole Cortana Gravemind thing, downgrades and voice acting, voice performance, and dialogue, and the whole stuff that it kinda just went overboard with the cheesiness. Now, like I said, this is partly again because I started out with Reach, because obviously Reach toned back a lot of the cheesiness and went more for this rather this grittiness, which I personally am much more of a fan of. Okay, quick tangent again. One of the things I always found almost weird, if not even fascinating, about Halo was its complete disconnection from the stuff you saw in live action trailers to what you eventually saw in the game. Which, okay, some of you guys might say, no shit, Sherlock, okay? Live action trailers are rarely representative of a game, Which, obviously, I wouldn't expect them to, completely represent the game, but I mean more in the sense of the feeling that they gave, Think back to, for example, the Halo 3 Belief campaign, or the, what was it again, Deliverance? With the two ODSTs in the scrapyard that are setting up a tracker to track the chief as he comes down. What was it called again? Oh, I do not know anymore. Fuck. I don't know what that was called anymore. But same with, for example, the ODST trailer, for example, or actually, the one live action trailer that I think was closest to what we would eventually see in the game in terms of feeling, style, and general tone was the delivery trailer in for Halo Reach. The the kind of somber tone, the piano music in the background, seeing Tom, what was his full name? Well, the Noble Six's predecessor, the previous Noble Six, seeing him sacrifice himself to take out a Covenant carrier, all that kind of stuff. It's very fitting for Halo Reach. So I think that trailer is, funnily enough, specifically that live action trailer is actually the most representative of what we would eventually see, because the Halo 3 Belief campaign and its other trailers and the ODST trailer, they were all very gritty. They painted this picture of it's humanity's last stand. This is it. The Covenant are here, and we have to make our stand. You have to fight for the survival of humanity. This very gritty, down to earth feeling, like, yeah, this is it. This is the final hour. This is Judgment Day. Now it's up to you to to make sure it comes out in our favor, which you don't see in the games. Like, okay, Halo 3 has a lot of its pianos, which I think I'm just gonna make people angry and angry with this. A lot of moments in Halo 3 almost feel manipulative. With Chief, with the trailer shot of Chief staring out in the distance, and the dun 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 dun, the piano. They don't really appeal to me that much. They almost feel manipulative, which I am just making people angry today, aren't I? God damn it. I don't know. It's just, again, back to the tone about Halo 3. It felt exceedingly cheesy, the Marine lines, the whole little Easter egg they had with Red vs. Blue. I think it was Caboose behind the door and some Marine trying to get in. The general tone of it. One thing I have to say, one thing that partly adds to that is also the fact that they didn't have mocap back then, which I can't really fully fault the game for. I've got the same issue with ODST. The way they move around, it just seems so cartoony and cheesy to me, like these over exaggerated movements, and it seems very, kind of, well, cartoony, weird to me. It's, I'm much more of a fan of the cutscenes as they were in Halo Reach, where, they were actually able to get in mocapping and give the characters much more believable motions and movements and all that. Yeah. And anyway, I don't really like the tone of Halo 3, but then again, the same critique points I raise here against Halo 3 obviously can be raised against Halo 2 and CE as well. I mean, the Marines have a habit of saying cheesy lines. That's like, it's kind of unfair to just pile that onto Halo 3 as is. I just think that was like the most extreme, or rather the most, I don't know. It's hard to describe. I felt like that was like the most what's the right kind of word? I don't know. I guess overdone at that point. Yeah, it's hard to say, but I don't know. It's a general feeling of it that doesn't really appeal to me. And again, oh yeah, also some of the voice lines in Halo 3, I totally forgot about those. Some of them are also just so cheesy to the point that I really am not a fan of those. Which again, for some people, that's the whole appeal. But yeah, Halo 3 as a whole package, in and of itself, it's okay. Its campaign is okay. The levels I play on Earth are, I don't know. It's kind of in the middle ground for me. It's okay. Like it's not like painful to play through, except for Cortana. I refuse to play that level unless I absolutely have to. Um, it's just I don't know, kind of meh. Though I have to admit, some of the encounters that they have, especially the scarab encounters in the game, absolutely fantastic. The fact that it's not actually scripted, but you can engage the scarab however you want. You know, there's emergent gameplay like, hey, you can use a jump pad to jump up on it. You can go up to the crane. You can use the rockets to take out like its legs, etc., etc., etc. That's fantastic. That is a definite big bonus point to Halo 3. Like those scarab encounters, I very much enjoy because you can take them on the way you want, which is, in my opinion, absolutely fantastic. Like the one in Halo 2 is okay, but it has a lot of build up, but not a lot of payoff. You know, it's like the music that obviously the music that plays when you jump onto the scarab itself, pretty fucking cool. But like the encounter itself is you jump on the thing, you kill a few Covenant, and boom, it's done. You know, even though you had all of this build up to it. So yeah, I can't completely fault Halo 3. It's still okay. It's just I don't know. Maybe I was spoiled by stuff like the Halo 2 anniversary and Reach and 4 and all that. So I guess in that sense, Halo 3 would probably be my absolute least played Halo game of the MCC. ODST is also okay. It also kind of falls in that same boat. Now, the biggest issue with ODST is, of course, an issue that many people before me have already raised back when it came out. Is the fact that you don't really feel like an ODST. You feel like a Spartan that hasn't been hitting the gym as much as others. You know, you feel like a light Spartan. You know, who didn't take his daily proteins and who didn't hit the gym. Which I mean, in one way, it's understandable because obviously the whole core gameplay in Halo is based around you playing as a Spartan. I mean, just think about it. CE 2, 3, 4, Reach, you always play as a Spartan, right? Well, except for the Arbiter sections in 2, but you get what I mean. So they probably couldn't really go for this radically different direction in Halo 3 ODST because like the whole gameplay fundamentals are built around you being a Spartan. But then, on the other hand, the problem is, why make it about ODSTs in the first place when you're not going to use the fact that you're an ODST, you know? Because, like I said, like many people have said, as an ODST, just a single brute should be absolutely deadly. Like, the rookie sections in the streets of Mombasa should have been much more about stealthing around, much more about avoiding Covenant patrols, because you're just one singular ODST, you know? Sure, you can take down a handful of grunts and jackals, but you're not the chief. You're not like a Spartan. If there's like a group of brutes coming your way, you should run the fuck away, you know? Or kind of use the environments or other tricks to win your encounters. You couldn't just go straight up head first into an encounter, guns blazing like the chief would do, and come out of it victorious. You know, you're an ODST. You're not a super soldier in this mega armor that makes you a walking tank. You're a guy with very big balls in somewhat better armor, and yeah, that's about it. You have some fairly big brass balls to compensate for the lack of Mjolnir armor, but that's it. And they're not plasma proof, sadly. It's kind of like comparing somebody of the Acadia Korskin. God, I always fuck up saying that. It's kind of like comparing one of the Cadia shock troops to a Space Marine. Okay, the difference probably wouldn't be that extreme because Space Marines are made to be absolutely ridiculously over the top. It's kind of the point of 40k. It's like it's supposed to be the most over the top thing you have ever seen. But it's it's comparable in that. So the fact that they didn't really make use of that, the fact that they didn't really make you feel like an ODST, kind of is a point against the game. Again, same with like the cheesiness and some of the lines, like the way Mickey and what was the other guy called? Fuck. Wait, you have Dutch, Buck, Rookie, Mickey, and oh my god, Romeo. There we go. like the way Romeo and Mickey behave is just seems extremely unprofessional. Which, okay, again, you could say, hey, it's late in the war, they had to like bring in all they could, but like, aren't ODST supposed to be the best of the best? I get that like a squad of guys would be fooling around, but they, I mean, for one, they don't really seem to respect their commanding officer. For the other, they don't really seem to have a lot of cohesion as a unit, and just the I don't know, just the way the game starts off with them around the table, speaking about the Navy, just those few lines just made me. I don't know. I don't really enjoy them. I guess the best out of them is probably Dutch, and occasionally Buck. Dare herself is meh. I guess ODST is okay. A lot of its music and atmosphere is fantastic. But as a whole package, it's on like the meh tier for me. Not bad, far from it. Like I said, neither ODST or Halo 3 are bad games. Like no fucking way. They're still very good, very good. It's just in comparison to the rest of the MCC, it's just they're probably the weakest ones. It's oh yeah, Halo 3 story. Maybe before I completely quit this, I should probably get to that. Yeah, Halo 3 story. Obviously we know from Halo 2's development that a lot of stuff that Bungie wanted to do, they couldn't with Halo 2. But I feel like something similar must have happened to Halo 3, or like the story writers got scrambled, because to me, Halo 3 story just seems to be an absolute clusterfuck. Like, okay, you come back to Earth, first you're supposed to meet up with the rest of the UNSC, get back to Johnson, Miranda, etc., etc., and think of what to do next. Okay, fair enough. In that sense, the beginning is all well and good. Then, you go to, find out why the hell Truth came back again, but this time with the Ark, not the Ark. What was it called? What was it? Was it the Ark? Oh fuck me! What was the Forerunner ship called again? Anyway, then you want to know like why the fuck is Truth back here again? Like, what does he want? Where is he going with that thing? You go to that like big excavation site that the Covenant have with like their carriers glassing the Earth to make it like to free it up. It's then like the Flood show up, which okay, main issue with the Flood in terms of Halo 3 story, aside from the downgrade that they made to the Gravemind, is the fact that the Flood just seemed to be poof defeated at the end of Halo 3, even though that shouldn't be the case. Like the moment the Flood appeared on Earth, that should have been game over. Because like the whole idea of the Forerunners is that they were this big, mega superior race of big brains who made the Halo rings, who made all of this fantastic technology, but they couldn't stop the Flood. The best way of stopping the Flood was to just annihilate all sentient life so that the Flood would eventually starve to death. Okay. So the Forerunners couldn't do it, but then now suddenly the UNSC, which had been weakened and plagued by years of fighting the Covenant, and the Covenant who had also been weakened by fighting a very fierce war against the UNSC, and all of a sudden these two sides suddenly just poof win against the Flood, even though the Flood is supposed to be this galactic scale extinction event, and I mean from what I remember from the game, I think the logic seems to be that because the Gravemind apparently deposited itself on the big thing was called the Ark. Yeah, because it deposited itself on the Ark and that blew up, the Gravemind's now gone, the Flood is also gone, even though from what I remember, the Flood like only need one spore to like spread themselves out, and they are, as far as I remember, capable of making proto Graveminds. Like I think Key's corpse in Combat Evolved was exactly supposed to be such an proto Gravemind. So, in that sense, the moment the Flood touched down on Earth, boom, game over, and at the end, when you blow up the Ark, when Truth is dead, when the Halo rings haven't been activated, everybody suddenly just says, yes, we've done it. The Covenant War is over. The Flood are gone. We have won. We have done it. You have become the Halo, John Halo. You know, you have become the thing. Um, which I don't know. Like, for example, the reason why they go to the Ark is because Cortana says there's a way to stop the Flood on it, which they never elaborate on. Yeah, there's a way to launch all of the Halo rings from the Ark, but that's it. They never establish why she said that there's like a way to stop the Flood, you know? Like they never figured out a way to stop the Flood. It's you see why I have issues with this. It's same with some of the stuff in ODST. Obviously, like the main story you experience in ODST, you know, you just trying to get back to your squad and then trying to get the engineer out. Fair and good. The problems arise in the moments it gets linked up with Halo 3, like Johnson's cameo in the legendary ending, and like other stuff like that one scene with Truth, suddenly where he's apparently at the excavation site. Like, how this is all supposed to fit together in the timeline, it's awkward. Okay, to be fair, I wouldn't really say that when one plays Halo for its story. Its story is neat in many cases and a good bonus, but usually you play Halo for its gameplay, which usually is fantastic. It's just, in Halo 3, it feels more like an arbitrary reason to get to these different set pieces than a coherent story. Like, Halo 2's story feels more coherent than Halo 3's, which is, I don't know how that happened. Honestly, I don't. Yeah. Halo 4's story is okay. Trying to humanize the Chief and Cortana are fairly admirable, you know, makes sense as an evolution. The whole thing with the Didact and the Forerunners and that, oh god, that egregious, like, info dump by the Librarian, that was bad. That was definitely bad. It's, yeah, like I said, you don't put too much focus on the story in Halo. It's a neat bonus in my opinion. It's not the main thing, you know. It's cool of some of the things they thought up for it, but at the end it's still a game, you know. That one quote from John Carmack. I'm pretty sure you guys know the one. Yeah. I mean, all in all, I'm definitely a big fan of the MCC. I'm really glad that they decided to bring it to PC. I think it's a fantastic decision. I think it brought more people to Halo, brought Halo to more people. It's cool. It's good. Do I have anything else to say? Oh yeah. One quick thing. One very, very, very quick thing. Since I'm on Halo 4, just one last tangent before I get off. One thing I enjoyed about Halo 4 was the fact that they took out the thing that you get unscoped when you take damage. I mean, but when we go back to CE, it obviously makes sense because some of your strongest weapons are the pistol and the sniper rifle, both of which you can scope in with. So it makes sense in that game's balancing to make sure that if an enemy, you know, shoots at you and you take damage, that you scope out, so to sort of balance out the absolute power of those weapons. But in later games, you know, when you introduce stuff like the BR, the DMR, the carbine, the beam rifle, all of these different precision rifles, it suddenly becomes more annoying than really balancing to just always get the player out of zooming in when he's using it, especially in like mid-range weapons like BR and DMR. Like, I get it in the sniper rifle, you know, you're supposed to use it from a distance, so if somebody's close enough to you, it makes sense to that damage scopes you out. Hell, you can leave the scoping out on damage thing entirely for multiplayer. I completely understand it there, but in single player it just seems unnecessary after CE. So yeah, I was glad that I took that out in Halo 4. Wow, I've been going for an hour. Jesus. Yeah, that's all. I'll see you guys later. Bye.